You can now purchase several of the mobs featured throughout this series on Bricklink. Follow the link below to find out more. In the last episode, we finished off yet another village, complete with a library, house, and farm, and of course a nice, overly complicated meeting place. But have you ever wondered what could be going on just under the surface of that village? Well, we're going to explore the answer to that today with this episode's underground module. This 24 block long section of cave is going to bridge the gap between the ravine and the deep dark. And we're going to try to fill this space with as much detail as possible. Ores, an expansion of the mine shaft, a transition into the deep dark, some sand red, and even some more surprises along the way. So hey, let's get to building. Today's build is going to be quite a big one. It's going to be 16 by 48 studs, or 8 by 24 blocks in the game. For reference, that's the same size as the Dripstone Cave module. Right away, I'm going to connect this both to the ravine on the left side and the deep dark on the right side. It'll just help make sure that everything gets lined up and everything looks good together. Already, that's quite exciting because this is the largest section of connected underground modules that we will have. The underground layer is slowly but surely coming together. I'm going to start out by detailing the deep dark side, using the same techniques and patterns that we used in that original deep dark module. This is going to be a pretty small splotch of sculk just to help ease into the full-blown deep dark ancient city part of the display. It's insane how many parts this kind of detailing eats up so quickly. I'm going to place down a sculpt catalyst, and then I hope you won't mind if we put in some tiling time this early in the video. With the addition of a sculk sensor, I think our little deep dark expansion here is complete. Let's move over to the left side of the display. You'll see I have a glow squid here. I want to add him in a little pool of water, which is pretty common to find these days in underground caves. I think it'll be cool if you can actually see him from outside of the display. So I'm going to use these thinner window panes so hopefully you can look into this small little underwater pond. Though before I cover this thing up, I suppose we do have to tile it off. When I put the squid back in and cover it up again with that big blue plate, I realized that this might just be way too dark. Even with the aid of my flashlight, you can barely make out the features of the glow squid. So I think it's time to break out a rather special piece. That's the 8x8 plate in trans medium blue. A beautiful element that will probably set you back about $10 these days on Bricklink. However, it's perfect here and well worth the expense because it's going to allow for some much needed light, even with the extra 1x2 trans blue tiles on top of it. I mean, isn't that so much better? And that's without my flashlight this time too. From there, we're going to continue to build up the left side of the cave, which will be slightly taller than the deep dark, which I think is thematically appropriate. We'll be expanding a bit of the mine shaft from the ravine module into this side of the cave as well. Because of that, I'm going to focus this side on mining, including lots of ores and also some stone variants like the diorite on the floor. And of course, I couldn't pass up the opportunity to bring in some more beautiful sand red for granite. If you've somehow managed to miss my ramblings about sand red in the past, well, let me just say that this is a very rare color that's very difficult to work with, but I love it a lot. And I try to throw it into the display whenever I can. We've actually had another granite patch made of sand red pop up in the display before. It's beneath the cherry tree in the cherry grove. But anyway, with the floor complete, I think it's safe to tile it off. Things are definitely looking quite nice now. Gotta love some smooth tiles all over the place. But if anything, these caves look a tad bit empty, so let's try to fix that. To start, like I mentioned, we're going to continue one of the mineshaft bridges that began in the ravine into this module. If you want to learn how to make those rails for yourself, go ahead and check out either that ravine episode or the Dripstone Cave episode 2. We're going to be using those same exact techniques to expand that rail system just 8 blocks further into this module. Simple things like lining up these 2 sections of the mineshaft I do believe adds a lot to the display. Of course, we put a lot of time and effort into making sure that the above ground modules connect seamlessly, and I think we should give the underground modules the same type of care. It makes it all seem very cohesive and not so much of an afterthought. This is one continuous world just waiting to be explored. Some of this stuff is going to be pretty hard to notice at first glance, and I think that's okay. When this goes to a convention and you take the time to look around in person and discover these new hidden secrets, that makes a build so much more rewarding. But there you go, there's our little mineshaft expansion. Now we have a lot of cave building ahead of us. It's pretty easy to forget when you compare this module to the rest of the Minecraft world how big 48 by 16 studs is. That is a lot of space to cover, and I've been building up my collection of dark bluish gray, well, since I depleted it last time while making another underground module, and it's crazy how fast those bricks disappear. This is a dense module with a lot going on, a lot of surface area for sure. But the result is totally worth it, and honestly this is turning out even better than I could have hoped for. Because of the complexity of the underground terrain, planning out underground modules block for block in-game beforehand like I do with some of the above ground modules just usually isn't worth it. I established the general layout in-game, but the rest we're just winging here, and it's coming together quite nicely. The next step is going to be adding the mobs and players for this module. We're gonna put a zombie here by the sand red, you gotta have one of those. And if I'm not mistaken, this might actually be the first regular creeper in the display. We'll also add this player that was originally featured in the Warped Forest set, completely decked out in enchanted armor. Then we'll add another player. This skin was featured in the Panda Haven set from this year in the water here. One of the 2 players who fell from the ceiling wasn't quite so lucky though. There's just a few more pieces I need to finish this build, and those are inverted 2x2 tiles to, of course, smooth off the roof of our cave. You'll see that I've left some pretty substantial holes in the ceiling here, and it's my hope that one day perhaps I'll be able to add some lighting in these caves, and that'll make that process a lot easier. We're now at the most exciting part of the episode though, and that's seeing how these look with some of the above ground modules on top of them. On the left we have the flower forest above the ravine, and then on the right we have the 2x3 snowy village on top of the deep dark. It's kind of a beautiful sight to behold. I hope that this module, which basically started as a cave transition, has become for you a memorable part of this display. I'm really happy with the amount of charm and character I was able to add to what seems like a simple cave. More than anything though, it really does get me excited about continuing to make more underground modules and having them connect together. It really is impressive when they start coming together like this. I guess the only thing I don't like is this really sloppy transition I've got going here, but that's a really easy fix. There you go. In the next episode, we're going to tackle a beach. Now with that episode, I can promise you 3 things. There's going to be turtles, there's going to be a shipwreck, and there's going to be a lot, and I mean a lot, of tiling. If that sounds interesting to you, you can watch that episode as early as today by becoming a channel member. All you have to do is hit the join button down below. But that's all I've got for this episode. Have yourself a great life, and I will see you next time.